Welcome to Business Law Unlocked with Attorney Shannon A. Holmes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Business Law Unlocked with Attorney Shannon A. Holmes. I'm your host, Mike Leon. You know, Shannon is a seasoned attorney with a broad range of experience in all facets of business and sports law, and he's equally versed in asset preservation and wealth transfer, and he serves as general counsel for a bunch of serial entrepreneurs out there. Today's episode, we're going to be diving into an evolving world of sports law and how the right legal guidance can protect both your career and your future earnings. A lot of athletes out there, you're going to want to listen up to this episode. So Shannon, good to see you as always. First, at a high level, just introduce yourself and share your background in sports law.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, so interestingly enough, Mike, during my undergraduate years, I interned for a sports management firm and learned such a great amount of information. Obviously, my interest at the time was I've always had an interest in business, sports, and law, and so I've been able to combine those into my career.
Let me ask you, this area of law, sports law, it's so niche. So what intrigued you about practicing specifically in this niche area? Is it a love of sports that you've had?
It is. I love sports. Participated as over a lifetime, and I looked around once, Mike, and realized that all the guys around me were playing collegiate or professional sports. All of them had similar concerns, questions, and/or issues. And even prior to becoming an attorney, when I spent my first 15 years after undergrad in the financial services sector, I used those skills to help a lot of guys. And then as I became a lawyer, I began to use my legal skills to assist both friends and new clients that were athletes and or retired athletes with many of their business endeavors.
Really goes hand in hand, both of those tracks, if you truly think about it. So let me ask you, because you've been in the field for a while, how has the field of sports law kind of evolved over your years of practice?
Well, now we're in this new age of what's called NIL, name, image, and likeness. And after several battles in the courts, the NCAA, which is the governing body for, collegiate athletics, decided that it was only fair that athletes have an opportunity to earn based on their name, image, and/or likeness while they're participating in colleges and universities. And so that's obviously the biggest trend. And now we see athletes as young as high school who are able to use their name, their image, and/or their likeness to earn. Prior to that, as you may remember, Mike, there were all types of regulations and stipulations what athletes could or could not do, when they could work, if they could work in the summer, they couldn't work during the school year. They were capped on what benefits they could get from the university. And now that's all emerging, right? And it's still continuing to emerge. It's still not quite at a place where we can say, hey, it's final and settled. And so with that, Mike, we see guys and ladies, and some of the top earners under the NIL rules now are ladies. And we currently, as we sit here today, Mike, talking, we see the WNBA women who are in a heated battle to get some additional benefits and compensation in their league. So there are a lot of emerging trends right now in the world of sports/business.
That 9-0 Supreme Court decision upended a lot of things in the world of college sports. I see it all the time as a graduate of a Big Ten school. So you're right about that. It's an ever-evolving landscape. So I got to ask you, first, you don't have to go into specifics, but who are some of the clients that you represent out there, whether it be businesses, athletes, parents?
Oh, great question, Mike. We represent all of the above, right? We have some situations. Let's start with the minors. There's some minors who have the opportunity to earn right now. And obviously, we have to be involved with their parents because these minors can't sign. They're not of the age of majority yet in the United States, right? So we deal with them. As we go up the ladder a little bit, some of the college athletes, obviously, their parents are still quite involved with some of their careers. But we represent them with respect to their agreements with, one, the universities, because now we're in a position where the universities are able to share some of the revenue they receive from their television rights, conference rights, et cetera. They're sharing those some of that revenue with the athletes through a structured payment system. So we're able to work with those athletes. And then as you move up to the professional ranks, we're able to negotiate contracts on behalf of professional athletes. And we also help them with their endorsement deals and their off the field businesses, nonprofits, et cetera. Mike, this area was one that, again, I've been involved in for a long time. As I mentioned, I started interning with a sports management firm while in undergrad. And we often hear about the athletes who go broke after so many years in their respective sports. And during COVID, I had this idea on my whiteboard and I decided to write a book. So I wrote a book called Chief Executive Athlete, How to Run Your Sports Career Like a Fortune 500 Company. And the thought was, look, instead of just talking about it and beating these guys up, why don't we make sure there's at least another resource, some information out there that these athletes, parents, coaches can turn to as a guide or resource. Again, it's not super detailed, Mike, but it's a very good roadmap for all the people I just mentioned to follow with respect to how to set themselves up and consider themselves as chief executives of the services they're providing. For instance, you think about an athlete that may play quarterback. Yeah, his job is to run the offense, hand the ball off, throw the ball, and do some other things. But he's really providing a service to a company, the company being the team that he plays for in that respective sport. And so we just try to get the guys and ladies to think from that mindset. And what does a company need? We need all the things a normal company needs: legal counsel, financial counsel, social and digital marketing assistance, PR, et cetera. And so that's the basis of the book, which again, I said serves as a roadmap to help these guys and ladies as they go through this process.
It can never be enough literacy about, these areas. So piggybacking on that, I did want to ask you, because it's almost like a circle within a circle. What are some of the key areas of law that sports law encompasses that your firm typically gets involved with? Expand on that for us.
Sure. Obviously, contracts are huge. Many of these athletes are signing some type of document at all times, right? They're always being asked to sign something for an exchange, if you will. So contracts is huge. The other part is protecting themselves, right? So we spend a lot of time in making sure we set guys up in the proper entity, whether it's a limited liability company, some form of corporation. Oftentimes guys are asked to partner with other athletes or other businesses. So sometimes we look at joint ventures and how do we structure our client's company to do a joint venture with another company. And then the other thing we spend a lot of time on is protecting what the athletes earn and how are those assets, one, going to be protected from and insulated from the outside world, and two, how do we pass that on in the event of an untimely event, which could be the death of that particular client. So we want to make sure we draft and support them with, if necessary, a trust of some sort, making sure they have a will, making sure they have the proper directives, power of attorneys, and things of that sort, so that people can act on their behalf in the event that athlete or a client becomes incapacitated. So we look at it from a very holistic perspective. We want to look at, what the athlete's doing on or off the field of court. And then when they're earning, how do we protect what they earn? And then how do we protect what they earn in the event they're no longer here?
Shannon, you mentioned a couple of things there, but I'm curious, are there other common disputes that you see happen in the sports industry? Everybody always thinks contract disputes is the biggest one, but are there other type of common disputes that you see that your firm handles?
One of the other things we see is a lot of disputes with the intellectual property. There's often, again, it sort of comes down to their NIL, right? Their name, their image, their likeness, if it's being misappropriated. And that usually comes down to an intellectual property fight. And so we make sure that we have the proper people in place to help us and assist us with those fights. Oftentimes it's tort related, right? So what the heck is a tort, Shannon? That's legalese. That no one knows what that is. Well, what happens if our athlete gets into a dispute with a party with respect to on their property? What if someone comes over to our athlete's huge home, is engaging at a nice family outing, nice barbecue in the backyard, trips and falls and hurts him or herself? So now we've got an issue with that. So we want to be able to protect our athlete and or our client with that. What if the athlete gets into an auto accident? How do we handle that? So there's all sorts of things that occur that usually gets wrapped around the word sports law, but sports law just encapsulates all the other practices of law. The person just happens to be, their primary source may be sports.
Shannon, an athlete's listening to this right now, or maybe even the parent of an athlete, like you said, you represent some minors out there. What would you recommend to them is generally the point of when they should hire counsel?
Great question, Mike. I think it's critical to hire counsel as soon as the athlete starts having the opportunity to engage and or use his name, image, or likeness. Don't hesitate to hire counsel. Oftentimes, I can tell you this, Mike. Let me share a story. I've had athletes, minors, reach out to me with their mom or their dad and have an opportunity to earn huge sums of money through these what's called a collective. Let me share briefly what a collective is. A collective is usually a group of alum, supporters of a particular university who've raised lots of money, and their goal is to compensate the athlete for his name, image, or likeness through endorsement and marketing deals the collective works on. And so they then partner with the athlete, pay the athlete a sum of money in exchange for the right to partner with the athlete and marketing companies. And so we've had those situations occur, and there's such huge amounts of money when we ask the parent and or the athlete not to sign that document. Oftentimes, Mike, they won't call us back because they're afraid we are going to impact that deal. And I'm not afraid to share this story because I think it's critically important that parents understand that everyone you're dealing with in this instance has an attorney. Whatever document you're going to sign with the collective was drafted by an attorney. Whatever document you're going to sign with the university was drafted by an attorney. And when you're doing deals with marketing and endorsement companies, it was drafted by attorneys. So we just encourage the parent and the athlete, the young athlete, to make sure they have legal counsel at the table too, because what we don't want to see happen is the NCAA has just given you rights to your name, image, and likeness. We don't want to see you give that back away to some other party and you not have control over that. So we thoroughly encourage the parents, athletes to make sure they engage legal counsel sooner than later.
Don't got to tell me about collectives as someone sitting right here. You see the helmet over my shoulder there for my Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So Shannon, we'll leave that there. But let me ask you, because there's a lot of emerging issues that maybe are beyond the contract, the physical piece of paper, mental health, athlete safety. You touched on the athlete safety and incapacitation, but what are some other emerging legal issues in sports happening today that you've noticed over your time?
Well, obviously, two things. I mean, just understanding the physical body, right? We saw just a couple of years, the young man for the Buffalo Bills who literally collapsed on the field. We need to make sure that our athletes, our clients understand the risks that are involved and making sure we prepare and plan for those things that could occur. Obviously, the concussions, we know about the CTE lawsuits that occurred both at the collegiate and NFL level where athletes' brains were researched, for the lack of better terms, and determined to have some trauma to the brain, which we believe was impacted because of their contact, particularly with the head-to-head contact in playing football. And so those are some of the emerging things. Obviously now AI, believe it or not, Mike, AI is playing a huge role in sports, whether it's with how recruits are recruited, whether it's analyzing players, whether it's analyzing information from other teams. But that's now a part that we have to share with our clients with respect to how AI is playing a role in, one, how they're performing, right? So now whether or not they get an opportunity, whether or not they get a contract extension, whether or not they get another team offers them, could be based on what AI determined based on previous performances. So those are some of the emerging issues that we'll continue to see across the sports landscape.
Well, it's terrible to see that DeMar Hamlin stuff that happened in Cincinnati, but good to see him back on the football field. So let's land the plane here as you were talking, Shannon, about trends and the future and the emerging. Give me some trends that are shaping the future of sports law, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years from your purview.
Well, I think we're going to continue to see NIL evolve. I think we're starting to see some high school associations now allowing high school athletes to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. And I'll pause here and say, what does that look like? Well, if a young athlete decides he's really creative and creates, he likes to make skateboards and his skateboards go viral, well, he can benefit from that now, right? He can actually earn the proceeds from that, and his amateur status, him going to college, won't be impacted. He may be a multimillionaire before he even lands a scholarship. He may be the best soccer player in the country, but he's got a unique skill of developing skateboards. Well, we want him to be able to do that, earn based on that skill, and also be able to go fulfill his dream of playing collegiate and or professional soccer, right? So NIL will continue to advance. As I mentioned, AI will continue to advance. And Mike, believe it or not, the world of female sports will continue to evolve. Flag football is now an Olympic sport. We expect to see that in 2028, both male and females competing in flag football. I look to see that the female sports genre in various capacities continue to expand. And it's just a great thing to see us now be able to pay attention to and have our female athletes properly compensated and have the opportunity for us to see them on the big screen regularly versus where they were only on periodically. So excited about what's happening on the female landscape as well.
Couldn't agree more. Shannon, thank you as always for the insights and time analysis on all of this. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you to everybody out there listening to another episode of Business Law Unlocked with Attorney Shannon A. Holmes. Do me a favor, visit shannonAholmes.com right now to learn more about his business and what he can do to help you if you're an emerging athlete out there. Do me a favor as well, like, subscribe, share this episode with somebody that needs to hear it. Leave us a review and comment. As always, I am Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.